Howdy, y'all. My name's Dave. Today I'm going to talk about musical theater. You don't know me, and I don't know you, but I'm just going to sit here and talk to you about my opinions, because it's that time of year where I really have nothing better to do. I actually have a 20-page paper due on Henry V, so please don't tell my English professor I'm doing this. Honestly, I just feel like talking about musicals, and nobody in my personal life wants to hear that, so I'm going to do it here. Today I'm going to be discussing my top 5 favorite musicals, in reverse order for purposes of building suspension. This is not me discussing what I believe are objectively the best musicals, just the ones I personally enjoy. Of course, I do believe that they are also objectively the best, but that's neither here nor there. So without further ado, here's my top 5 favorite musicals.
I am the very model of a modern major general, life information, vegetable and...
Number 5 is The Pirates of Penzance. I really enjoyed this one because while watching it, I didn't really have any idea what was going on in the plot at any given time. It's kind of uncomfortable at the beginning, with the main character just abandoning the woman who raised him because she's not as pretty as a bunch of girls he just saw, but she gets justice, becomes a pirate, and the rest of it's just catchy music. It's incredibly cheesy, like, don't watch it if you're lactose intolerant. And every character is overwhelmingly simplistic and kind of dumb, but that's what makes it pretty enjoyable. The plot, if you can follow it, is hilariously convoluted. A guy's contractually obligated to be a pirate until he's 21, and when he's 21 he decides to quit. Then they discover he was born on a leap year, making him only 5, and they demand he stays with them, and he just goes along with it. The Pirates of Penzance is also where the song Modern Major General comes from, which is what runs through my brain every time I take too much Adderall.
I am the very model of a modern major general, life information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England, and I quote the fights historical, from Marathon to Waterloo, in order categorical.
Even if you don't like musicals, I'd suggest watching it, simply because Kevin Kline has his shirt open the entire time. That's the reason I watched it to begin with. I don't remember most of the plot, but I definitely remember sexy pirate Kevin Kline.
A clear day, rise and look around you.
On a Clear Day You Can See Forever is a nice little musical that debuted in 1965 and was later turned into a movie that I'm not going to watch. I won't watch it because I was a huge fan of the original cast, and they're not in it. Screw you, Eve Montand. Actually, they asked William Daniels to reprise his role, but he turned it down because he just really didn't like his character. Again, the purpose of this video is not to convince you that these are good musicals. At least not yet. On a Clear Day You Can See Forever, which is a really annoying title to continue to say, has another really weird plot where a girl with the ability to make plants grow and predict phone calls goes to a psychiatrist to try and quit smoking. He hypnotizes her and finds out that she was someone in the past life in the 1800s. He falls in love with that 1800s girl and continues to hypnotize her so that he can go out with the 1800s girl. As you do. And she gets pissed off when she finds this out, as you do, but he sings a song, and she goes back to him, which is entirely realistic, because if John Cullum ever sang a song to me, I would fall in love with him too. The original Broadway cast of this musical has 3 actors that went on to be in 1776, 2 of which played the same character, and William Daniels sings a song about Social Security benefits. All in all, it's weird and cheesy, but made entirely great by John Cullum's fantastic performance, which is a running theme on this list. In fact, they wanted to play the music from this show in Northern Exposure, but John Cullum had to be like, wait, guys, that's me. Because when you're a stage actor, no one knows who you are, or cares. It's a really interesting musical, with the lead actress essentially taking on 2 roles. The setting also continually switches back between modern day and the 1800s, which I feel could really make for some interesting set design opportunities. I'm unsure if it's too dated for a revival, but the premise is interesting, the characters are likable, and it's all in all a very comfy experience.
Stand and show your colors, let's all go to war.
Number 3 is Shenandoah, or as I like to call it, The Adventures of a Sad Dad. You want to watch a guy who doesn't really have the best life continually get sadder and sadder? Then this is the musical for you! It takes place during the Civil War, focused on the lives of a family that really do not want to participate in that war. Of course, that doesn't happen, and after soliloquizing to his dead wife, Charlie Anderson gets to watch one son get kidnapped and 2 more get murdered. Eventually the kidnapped son comes home, but the rest of it's still pretty fucking tragic. War is hell, kids. I probably would have considered this musical to just be kinda average and run-of-the-mill, but John Cullum's singing, as it always does, really just makes it fantastic. It makes me want to be a sad Civil War dad. In fact, he was so good that after they cast him in the original Broadway version, they did a revival in the 80s and were like, well, he's the only one that can do it right. So they got him back. Although, once I did see a production where the guy playing Charlie Anderson looked exactly like Vladimir Lenin, and that was pretty good. It's got great music, a solid plot, and John Cullum singing about watching his kids die. All in all, a great time.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day...
It's really good at combining both the tragic with the cheesy, in a way that neither aspect really overshadows the other. It's sad and poignant, but it's never completely crushing, and the occasional comedic aspects don't ruin the overall vibe. Like there's one joke about the vapors, which I'd honestly describe as the funniest few lines I've ever seen in a musical before. I mean, who, in this day and age, who actually even knows what the vapors are? Did we ever know what the vapors were? What are the vapors? Shenandoah received 6 Tony nominations and 2 awards, but I don't really consider Tony Awards to be a measure of a musical's worth. I measure a musical's worth in my ability to lie in the dark and listen to it and feel sad. And Shenandoah gets full marks for that.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day...
I rise again, full size again.
The overture to On the 20th Century contains train noises. 10 out of 10. No, just kidding. I never pass up an opportunity to talk about On the 20th Century. Let's see. It gets 10 points for train noises, -7 for John Cullum's mustache, and +8 for Kevin Kline's mustache. 11 out of 10. So it's a little after 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm beginning to lose my posture a little bit, so just bear with me. I really enjoy On the 20th Century, because it's one of those stories where the main protagonist is just kinda awful. And you know, I think if a piece of media can take just a shitty character and make him likable, make you root for him, that's mark of a good piece of media. So the general essence of the plot is a egomaniacal theater producer is trying to get his ex-girlfriend turned movie star to be in his play, so he doesn't starve on the streets. In fact, it was originally based off a movie called 20th Century that came out in like the 1930s, which is the same plot with just more domestic abuse. So luckily the domestic abuse was taken out of the musical version. So this guy Oscar, played by John Cullum, if you couldn't tell the theme that this video ended up having, just kind of parades on and on and on about how great he is, sings an actually really sweet love song with Madeline Kahn, sings a somewhat sexually charged duet with Kevin Kline, then attempts suicide to try and get Madeline Kahn to sign his contract. It's campy, it's fun, it's heartwarming at times, and it all takes place on a train. Who could ask for anything more? It got a revival recently that I didn't get a chance to see, although it's not like I saw the original. I haven't seen the original of any of these.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out.
But the cast is full of funny and memorable characters, right down to the side characters that keep trying to get Oscar to produce their play. And that's another thing I really enjoy, is like theater about theater, because you get to see how playwrights and producers really feel about the kind of people they have to deal with on a regular basis. On the 20th Century is really just a smorgasbord of great experiences. John Cullum gets to sing a fun, upbeat song about what he's going to leave behind when he kills himself. Kevin Kline pretends to be a dog at some point. The audience gets told through song to repent for their sins. All in all, 10 out of 10. Here's a little behind-the-scenes secret. I keep getting distracted between every shot, so it's now almost 2 in the morning, and it's time for some honorable mentions. The Music Man. That's a good one. I really like a lot of the songs. Robert Preston really went off. 1789, Les Amants de la Bastille. That's a good one. It's in French. It's kind of techno, hip-hop, punk? Not punk. French. Les Mis. You know, I don't even really like it all that much anymore, but like I was super into it in 8th grade, and it just kinda lingered with me. I can't get rid of it. Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. Now there's good music. When I said that I don't consider Tony Awards to be like an accurate representation of a musical's worth, but you know, I'm still kind of pissed off that it got robbed at the Tonys, and that Edgy Teen the Musical somehow won Best Musical. But not here to start any fights. That's the end of our honorable mentions.
Is anybody there? Does anybody care?
Well, we've finally made it. You know, part of me thinks I'm a little too tired to discuss 1776, but the sensible part of me knows that I'm hydrated and Mama didn't raise no quitter, so I'm going to talk about 1776. If you know me, which you might, because it's not like this is a video someone would watch if I hadn't told them to, you know that I love 1776 more than anything. It's a great musical, great cast, great soundtrack, great social and political messages. If you want to hear about those social and political messages, check out my only other video. It has William Daniels singing about things that are not social security benefits. It's got John Cullum and Clifford David singing about slavery. It's a very good song, it's very intense and harrowing, but they both gave admirable performances in their respective productions. I could go on and on about the social and political aspects of the musical, but I already have a 15-minute long video on that, so I'll just talk about theater stuff. All the many characters are developed, interesting, and serve a purpose. And while the musical holds the record for longest period in a musical without music, when the songs come around, they're pretty good. So the plot is based around John Adams' attempts to get Congress to declare independence from Great Britain, with his friends Jefferson and Franklin making sex jokes all the way through. It's a really light-hearted take on history, except for when they discuss slavery, and when William Daniels has that one really kind of gutting, empowering song at the end that makes me want to yell, but in like a good way. I'll never get to see the original 1969 Broadway version, and that makes me really sad. But I saw the 90s revival, and that was pretty good, and I watched the 1972 movie regularly, on all the various forms I own it on. I'd definitely recommend 1776, but I'd have to recommend watching it through a more, perhaps not radical lens, but I'd recommend paying attention to how it sort of undermines the idea of American kind of traditional conservative portrayal of history. Or just watch the video I made on that topic, if you want. Give it a like, subscribe. So it's 2:30 a.m., and I've made it to the end of my list. But I just spent the last semester writing essays, a lot of essays, and now I'm incapable of making a piece of media that doesn't follow a good essay format, so I'm adding in a conclusion. And the conclusion I have to make is this. If John Cullum is in a musical, it's gonna be good. He knows what he's doing. he's good at acting and singing. If he's in a musical, you should see it. That's that. Good night.